Brothers and sisters, we begin with praise and gratitude, the recognition of our existence as a fundamentally blessed manifestation of divine mercy. Our entire journey from when we were created in heaven, when our angel sent us to our mother's womb, and then we came out to experience this world and everything in it. Gratitude is the beginning of true faith, recognizing to whom we owe all of this to, this gift of life. So we praise Him in abundant praise, praise that fills the heavens and the earth and everything in between. We exalt His greatness and perfection above everything that we can imagine beside Him. We ask Him to send His peace and blessings and mercy on His final messenger, Muhammad, who lived the example of piety and devotion, who showed us the model of how to understand reality from within ourselves and in our environment, and how to bring community together in divine purpose. It is in this reflection of our existence that we will gain the substance of purpose and meaning. If you look back into the Prophet ﷺ's companions, and you see there were two very different reactions in Arabia 14 centuries ago. There were people who, when they heard about Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, communicating a message from God, that they would hear it and listen to him, and they would say, "Oh, this is ridiculous, this is nonsense. What is he talking about? What is this new form of poetry?" And then there were others who were objectively insightful. They said, "This, what he is saying, is some of the most profound language we've ever heard. It doesn't follow any of the poetic styles that we know. This man, we don't know him as a crooked, shady person. He's not a liar. He doesn't read and write Arabic. He's never sat with poets." So they asked him, "Muhammad, what is this exactly?" "Well, an angel is communicating this to me, and I'm telling you." And they recognize that they don't believe in a hereafter. They don't even focus on God, even though they have this word Allah, meaning the creator of the universe, supreme being. But they focus on their idols. Most of their concern about religiosity and worship is related to those statues around the Kaaba in their homes. It's all very strange what he's talking about here. But it makes so much sense. Based upon that objective analysis of the reality of who this man is and what he is saying, they embraced his message. Objective insight into reality leads to action that is based upon truth, that is based upon actual substance. If you operate by tribe, according to what I was raised to think, whatever I have heard up till now, my limited scope, what I expect should or shouldn't be based upon my own thinking, you will never arrive at any truth and you will never stand for anything. You will just be like ants in an ant farm. But that's what makes us unique. And throughout our history, we have seen people coming to Islam. If you look at Indonesia, you will see there was never any wars fought anywhere near any of the borders of Indonesia. There was no Islamic lands of governance by some Islamic laws. But this archipelago became 200 million Muslims. And what we're going to talk about today is why they became Muslim. It had nothing to do with any sort of debate, because they did not speak Arabic or Persian or Indian languages, which is their access to Muslims were these people. It was simply what they saw from these people. When we look at our history, we see the ups and downs. The fundamental essence is leadership, cultivating education and civilization based upon objective insight. When we look at the science of modern psychology, they have studied the science of change in human beings as individuals and as a collective. On an individual level, they say change has 5 stages. The first is the pre-contemplation. In Islamic, we look at that in the theory of character and spiritual disposition as heedlessness, ghafla. And this is where someone fails to see the need to change themselves or their environment for the better. They're not even able, they don't want to or are able to see that there's something that needs to be fixed, that there's something that is wrong, that there is injustice, whether it be internally inside themselves, in their heart and mind, or whether it be in their family, or whether it be in the society at large. The second stage is contemplation. And this is basically where people become aware of problems in themselves and in their environment, but they're very hesitant to make a change because it's not easy to change things. Even with your own self, to create a new habit is very difficult once you pass, childhood. You usually stay in the same patterns, same ways, same routines, same rituals for most of your life. But if you look at the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, until the day he died, and then you look at those most profoundly impacted companions by him, you will see they were in a perpetual state of change and growth and development. It's because they had insight. Psychologists tell us the third step where change becomes something is preparation. Now you say, you know what? I'm not doing anything about this. I know I need to fix this. I need to improve this behavior. I need to start doing such and such. I need to stop doing such and such. In our house, as a family, we need to do these things. And so you start to create a plan. This is what we're going to do. You come up with a strategy and a plan, so now you're going to change something. Like right now, our government is doing all kind of crazy stuff that looks like we're going to dystopia. Are we going to buy into the nonsense of left versus right and battle it out? Or are we going to see that it is the rich and powerful who are consolidating all of the wealth and power and means of control of social order versus the other 95% of humanity? You see? Will we see it for what it is and choose to address things properly, or will we buy into the system that they have given us? The fourth is action. And they highlight, the psychologists, they say for action to really mean anything, it has to be intentional. It has to be self-directed. If you're doing something because someone else told you, because the tribe does so, our family, our culture, our religion, and you're just going along with it, that action won't mean much in the grand scheme of things, because you will then become hypocrisy. You will struggle with being outside of the comfort zone where that becomes normal behavior, right? Some will say, okay, I'm going to go to the mosque and then I'll be better. So they come to the mosque, then they pray more, but then they leave. So the reason is they felt like that's where I have to be good. No, they didn't want to be good themselves, which starts at home, inside your mind and heart, creating a daily regimen outside of the mosque. The mosque is simply a resource to facilitate and maintain this proper growth and development. It is not the solution. Just like the people with, inshallah, when Ramadan comes, I will repent from such and, inshallah, I plan to go to Hajj and then I'll start to do such. These people are not serious. This is not real action. This is superficial. Action is real right now because now is all you own. You don't know about tomorrow. You don't know about next month. And so once we decide to act because we have chosen a path, that we have come to objective, insightful knowledge that this is what's best for me, my family, my community, my society, then we go to maintenance. Maintenance is where that becomes who you are. You are now becoming a different person. You are now changing and becoming a new person with new ways of doing things, avoiding certain things, people, situations, habits, and so forth. So insight is the basis and beginning for having righteousness in you. You can't begin to have righteousness if you can't identify what to fix or what to do to be righteous. And that's the essence of human growth and development. In Arabic, we call this an-nadhr. An-nadhr. See, when you say basar and nadar, you could mean to see something. But when Allah says, أَوَلَمْ يَنْظُرُوا فِي مَلَكُوتِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. When he said in Surah Al-A'raf, why don't people look into how God created everything in all of these detailed functional purposes and means? He's not saying, are you aware that creation exists? He's saying, are you not analyzing how things are and why they are the way they are and the systems upon which they operate and cause and effect and benefit and harm? You're seeing it all around you. Now in His creation, things are set with systems by default. They don't consciously choose. But you, O reader of this book, will have to decide to change the system that you operate on to be in alignment with the one who created you. And that is how you will succeed as a human being. When he says, أَوَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَيَنْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. Tell the people to go around, travel the earth, and see what happened to other nations before them. Now, back then, when this was revealed, the vast majority of planet Earth did not have books and libraries. So reading up on history was something strange. So he said, just go travel and talk to people, learn from them. Now it means study history. Allah is telling you to study the history. You've chosen to live here in America. You need to understand American history. Should you just go for whatever they're teaching you in school? And those people who are creating these curriculums to keep us dumbed down, as John Gatto, the famous teacher of the year in New York State, said in his famous speech. So how did you become teacher of the year in New York State after being teacher of the city of New York City? He said, I just discarded the curriculum they give and I taught them things that will help them grow and help them have passion for learning and growth and development, critical thinking, something they are not doing in the curriculum here. And that's true whether you're in Ballantyne or Cox Mill or anywhere else, for those of you thinking that this is something. So study history. Understand what happened. Right now, there are many of the top social scientists and anthropologists. I've watched multiple YouTube presentations by these PhD professors of human history that say Rome, what led to its greatness in its many centuries, and its downfall. They're literally giving you like modern America and its downfall. Look at the economics, look at the social, look at the behaviors. Look at the way they treat foreign policy. And look at Rome, and it's the same. It's falling because these people think they can do the same stuff and get a different result. Well, according to some linguists, that's a definition of insanity. But when you're so arrogant, as we see with the Zionist state and the government that they control here in our country, arrogance is standard once you have all the power and the money behind it. انظر كيف نصرف الآيات لعلهم يفقهون. He says, pay close attention how we're explaining to you these signs, this message, so that then perhaps people could come to an understanding. But he's telling you to understand as the carrier of this message to the people, meaning people will not truly understand Islam unless you are an embodiment of it, because you understand the beauty and the richness and the depth of it. If Islam is a set of rules and regulations and a list of beliefs, and these are haram and don't eat this food and pray this many times, and that's Islam to you, we're in trouble. Islam is the natural relationship between creator and creation. And so all of the nuance and richness of human experience is being addressed in the Quran and the example of the Prophet ﷺ by literal statements or by underlying divine wisdoms that are there that scholars have been extrapolating and applying throughout our history. But that's another. فَلْيَنْظُرُ الْإِنسَانُ مِمَّا خُلِقَ. Let the person look what you were created from, where you came from, how you became what you are. إِلَى طَعَامِهِ. Look at your food. Just stop for a moment. think about what food you're eating, where it came from, how it was prepared, what it does when you eat it, how it's distributed, and then you tell me that out of nowhere and nothing, a big explosion took place, and then all these particles formed into this very succinctly complicated, beautiful, complex, systematic functionality. Come on now. That is the biggest ridiculous statement I've ever heard in my life, but yet all of the smartest people in the world are saying such a thing. Who made them smart? Who told us that they are the authority? Why did we accept that? This is another. You're seeing how things are. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. The camel is no joke, man. You really should study a camel. It is a very amazing animal. It has so many unique qualities that without it, people would have never, ever, ever lasted in Arabia. The Prophet ﷺ said a beautiful thing. He said, whoever maintains two qualities in their attitude and their worldview, then they will be counted as a grateful, patient believer. Shakiran sabira. He said, number one, when it comes to your understanding of religion, you should look to those more dedicated, more knowledgeable, more committed, better character, better regimen of worship, and try to be closer to their model. Try to take friends with them. Try to grow seeing that example, realizing your shortcoming. He said when it comes to worldly matters and wealth and status, you should look to those who are less fortunate than you and praise and thank Allah for your countless favors and blessings and see maybe if you could do something to help them out and feel that obligation upon yourself. When you do that, you will be counted as such a person. When we look at the scholarly tradition of the tabi'een, those who followed the companions, there is a famous discussion that was being, juristic discussion about if somebody rented some property that someone had and what they did with it and all of that. One person said, this is a hadith, the Prophet said haram. Naha, don't do it. Al-Layth, who is known as one of the great scholars of our time, in his time, he was seen just like we all see Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi, Imam Malik, and the rest of them. Imam Al-Layth was there, he said, no. Do you even know why the Prophet said that? Do you know what he was talking about when he said that? Do you know our circumstances now, 150 years later, if that is applicable? And then he told him with this statement. He said, لو نظر فيه ذو الفهم بالحلال وحرام لم يجيزوه. Right? He said, some people, if you did not look into the matter, you might say it's haram. And if you looked into the matter, you may realize it's halal. But some people don't even look into the context or anything like that. Meaning what? This was the beginning of juristic reasoning in our history. They were saying that there are principles to be understood. So all of you who come from a background where it's like, this is my madhab. If you're thinking a madhab is simply knowing the Quran, memorizing it, and then memorizing lots of hadith and just saying a hadith or an ayah, you have no idea what you claim to follow. That's not what it is at all. It is a very sophisticated juristic methodology with multiple different systems of derivations by which we come to rulings, considering benefit, harm, context, linguistics, situational realities. All of that has always been there in our history. Anyone who's trying to sell you in Islam that this very simplistic literalist thing, I can tell you, that was never the way they understood it throughout our history. The state that started really pushing that on everybody has in its history as a kingdom been proven to be aligned with the European and the Western powers. They call it the petrodollar, just so you know. Be careful. Propaganda is real, using religion and politics and economics to control people and compartmentalize them and to take away the richness of what makes them human is a real thing. And one of the clear proofs of this is how they can just flip-flop it and change it because the new economic interests are different than the previous interests of political strife with our neighbors here. But this is only going to come to you if you really look into it. If you just take things and just go along with it, oh, that's the person, this grew a long beard. He said that's hadith, we should follow him, never question it. And the same people are saying don't follow madhabs, and they became a madhab. Everybody's following them. Same group from the same place. That's a madhab. And they're saying don't follow madhabs. Hold on, you just create this. What kind of psyop is this? And that's where we have to reflect upon where do we get our knowledge? At-tabassur, al-basira. At some point you start to arrive at a much deeper understanding of things. Now you've looked at it, you've understood reality in yourself, in your family, in your community, in your government, in your history. Then you've looked into the Quran and the Hadith and the Seerah and Islamic history. Now you're saying, okay, now I have a good idea of the moral implications of what I'm talking about and why I would say we should or shouldn't do such and such as individuals, as a family, as a community. Why this would be the priority now where it wasn't a priority before, even though we're talking about the same behavior. And that we find in all schools of thought throughout the history have this type of discussion going on in our tradition. وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. He says in Surah Al-Dhariyat, in yourselves, don't you see? He's not talking about look inside yourself. Back then, obviously, they don't have anything to look inside of you. What he means is really think deeply about you as a human being. Your state, your reality as an individual. Think about what's happening in your body. Think of what's happening in your mind. Think about what affects that. Look around you and the others who are also human beings. Look at your collective state. How did it become this way? Why is it this way? What factors led to these behaviors, these problems? What factors led to these positive things? And then you'll see in the Quran and Sunnah the mechanisms to create either this growth and development or this downfall and decadence. بل الإنسان على نفسه بصيرة. Surah Al-Qiyamah. The human being is fully capable of understanding our state. Many of the scholars said most people don't pay attention. They're at that pre-contemplation phase as the modern psychologist. He says, أُقْسِمُ بِالنَّفْسِ اللَّوَّامَةِ. That's how it starts. Where you start to look at yourself with a critical eye. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Hey brother, give me an advice. What can I do better? How can I improve? That's where you start to gain that insight into yourself to grow. Most people these days are raised with arrogance as a default. Just think to yourself, how many times growing up did I hear elders and religious people saying, I was wrong, please forgive me, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have said that. Think to yourself. And I'm going to tell you why that's common. Because people feel comfortable in maintaining the way things are. And nobody wants to deal with that they themselves have something to improve. Once you reach adulthood, you want to believe I got it together, I'm an adult, I know I'm doing my stuff, I'm in charge, I'm responsible, all of that. But if you're going to get better, you have to look at yourself, what could I do better? فَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. He says, think deeply, O you who have insight. قَدْ جَاءَكُمْ بَصَائِرُ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ. Deep, insightful lessons have come to you in this message from your Lord, from your nurturer, from your nourisher, who wishes to bring you up, tarbiyatan, to give you an education that will be amali, a pragmatic growth and development based upon your needs as your situation is considered. Because He is Sami' Basir, Khabir, all of that. He is the essence of insight. So we have to look at things in a deeper way. If we were thinking, man, this guy's trying to make us like become historians and political scientists and economics, I'm going to tell you where that idea came from. That idea comes from secular capitalism. This is the ideology that is commonplace in the world. Religion is something for one day of the week. Go do your holy stuff and your rituals. Your old religion's outdated. We got science and technology, money and power. Get back to work, get in your hamster wheel, pay your debts, pay your bills. That's the real world. But the believers, the idea of general education, the liberal arts, It was actually identified by Adelard of Bath in his memoir when he left England, because he said the church is so oppressive and I love to study science, and I've been told I will be burned at the stake if I try to study science. So I'm going to go to an amazing land called Andalusia, where I've heard that these amazing people have established a society where everybody is an intellectual and you can be religious and intellectual at the same time. This is his own memoir. It's called The House of Wisdom. It's put together by a non-Muslim guy. And then he goes there and he says, I was so amazed because, in most of the world, for most of human history, you grow up, dad's a carpenter, you become a carpenter. Dad's a trader, you become a trader. Dad's a blacksmith, you become a blacksmith. But he's like, I went to a place where they said, no, you are a human. You have all kinds of potential. You need to have a good, sound, structured knowledge of most of the basic sciences. Then you will see your passion of which specialization, but then you'll always be a basic reference of what's going on in the world and how to deal with it. That started with our history. But the question is, are you aware of this? And now if you come from a Muslim country, why didn't they teach us this stuff? That's a very good question. Why do we need a white guy named John to tell us this? Because Allah can guide anyone. But you have to seek it. You have to want it. You can't inherit religion. You can't inherit the truth. You cannot, because my family is this, I'm following this, and this is our way, and this is the tradition. That is not tabassur. That is not an-nadhr. That is not huwiyah. This is a culture. This is an inclination. This is a way of people. So I ask Allah to keep us on the straight path and bless us with wisdom and insight. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. In order to be a true believer, we are claiming to be believers. That's why we're here. The Surah Al-Jumu'ah said you should leave your work and come here. That's why we're here. And by the way, just to be clear, no other, like if you read the Bible, will you find anything about Christmas or December 25th? Not one word. Do not take Islam for granted. There is no other religious tradition that can literally trace back everything it's doing to the Prophet who spoke it. We are Ummatul Isnad, the nation of proper attribution of values, beliefs, character. Because why? Because it's built on insight. Insight is based upon truth that can be proven, and thus it gives you clarity in who you are and what you stand for. People will appreciate that. So to be a true believer, you must have insight. You must recognize the perpetual necessity of change in yourself, in your environment, in your family, your friends, in your neighbor, and your government. You have to recognize that there's always room for improvement and growth in all of these things. So you have to be looking for and analyzing internally and externally while studying the Quran, while studying the example of the Prophet, and then seeing how they overlap so clearly. So those people of Indonesia, they did not speak Arabic, they did not speak Persian, they did not speak Hindi or Urdu if it was developed yet. But those traders who came to them to be Muslim in their presence, they came there with a business and they set up shop and they dealt with them. Over time, just how these people were, how they did what they did, why they did what they did, what they stood for, what they represented, where that came from, their comfort and confidence and clarity in that. It was not a debate. I don't know how many times I want you to talk to my friend, I want you to convince him that this is not the proper belief, that our belief is right. Very few people in human history ever changed their belief system because someone tried to convince them. I've watched debates wherein whatever knowledge Allah has blessed me with, I can tell one person won this debate. It was very clear. But all the people who follow the guy who lost, who come from his tribe and his group, they're like, yeah, he said this and that guy lost. That people are tribal. Don't be like that. Don't be tribal. Be a person of your own knowledge that you have found and that you know and you represent from primary sourced evidence and experience. Don't just be a carrier. Be an innovator. We mean innovator in the way you live your life, not what is the religious teaching. So, okay, we're going to cancel this guy. When you do that, that's what it says. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. So the Prophet ﷺ is the blessed one to carry this message to us. But this is not just for him. There is no such ayah in the Quran like that. Say, this is the path that God has blessed me with. It's not because my family said, it's not because I said, it's because it's true. And I can prove it to you if you're interested. If you're not interested, that's fine. And those who I'm with, we know what we're doing. We are following the path of God. We know this. You have to be in the clear about this. If you're not, people will see the confusion in your face. They will see the lack of clarity, the lack of confidence. And they will not trust that you are a reference. Most people are starving inside for moral clarity based upon objective insight. When they see that in someone else, that's what will make them convert. Most people till now, I'm going to go ahead and put, just because I've watched hundreds of people come to Islam, I'm going to say 80 to 90% of people come to Islam on their own search. They're just looking for the truth. And so they didn't find too many Muslims doing like we should be doing. But what they did find was a whole lot of facts and truth and history and clarity in the Quran and the biography of the Prophet and in the Islamic paradigm. But when Muslims are being Muslim for real, on real knowledge and insight, I'm going to tell you they will all come to Islam. And that's why 9/11 happened. That's why everything has happened since. They know this. They know it. But as they say, the ball is in our court. Now is the time. What are we going to do with this opportunity? Ya Allah, we ask you to fill our hearts and minds with clarity. Give us objective insight. Give us an understanding of ourselves and of society that will improve the condition of humanity. Give us the means to be advocates for truth and justice so that the world can have harmony and cohesion and compassion, and that people will live a life where they feel like they were not systematically abused or oppressed. Ya Allah, we ask you to be with our brothers and sisters in Palestine and in Sudan and elsewhere throughout the world, to be with all of the people who are struggling with this evil system of control and power, with this ridiculous thing they made up called the money and the dollar. Ya Allah, show us true value, true worth, that it is of a moral nature. It is related to words and actions that improve people's lives. Ya Allah, make us the stewards and the advocates of that truth. Make us worthy of your contentment. Make us leaders among the pious. Make our children the leaders of the world in reviving the prophetic legacy. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.